2 of those vetoes were overridden, so it really did make a huge difference. Another thing that I was known for nationally is I was more outspoken than any governor in the country regarding school choice. I really believe that the only way that we're going to reform education in this country is to bring competition to public education. So for 6 straight years, I proposed that every single student in New Mexico get a voucher that would have brought about that competition to education. The notion of educational entrepreneurs unleashed on the educational system to bring better products, better services at lower prices is something that really excites me, and it would have a profound positive impact on education in this country. Now that didn't go anywhere, but the public opinion in New Mexico went from 35% supporting school vouchers when I started the entire debate to over 50% supporting school vouchers when I left office. So I thought that was significant. Another thing that I got known for nationally was, and this was in keeping with a promise, to look at everything that we were spending money on. What are we spending and what are we getting for the money that we're spending? I really wanted to take, when I started my 2nd term, I really wanted to take a hard look at the war on drugs in this country, and I wanted to include legalization as a potential alternative to what we were doing. Now, I came at this from the standpoint that I wanted to crack down on drinking and driving. That's where this all started. And guess what? The police, they don't have the resources. The courts, they're packed, and the prisons are full. It turns out that half of what we spend on law enforcement, the courts, and the prisons is drug-related, about $70 billion a year. And what are we getting for that $70 billion a year? Well, we're arresting 1.8 million people a year in this country, which I point out is the population of New Mexico that gets arrested every single year in this country. And we now have 2.3 million people behind bars in this country. We have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. I looked at this issue, and I would ask you all, if you haven't looked at this issue, to just look at it, get online, talk to people, and see if you don't come to the same conclusion that I have, and that is that 90% of the drug problem is prohibition-related, not use-related, and that's not to discount the problems with use and abuse, that ought to be the focus. So then and now, I propose legalizing marijuana. When I say legalize marijuana, control it, regulate it, tax it. It's never going to be legal to smoke pot, become impaired, get behind the wheel of a car, or do harm to others. And it's never going to be legal for kids to smoke pot or buy pot. And under which situation is going to be easier for a young person to buy pot? A situation that exists today, where you can virtually buy it anywhere, and by the way, the person that sells pot also sells harder drugs, or a situation where you have to produce an ID to be able to do that. I think you could argue that use would actually go down among young people. And based on Holland and Portugal's experience, it would suggest that would be the case. I got out of office January 1 of 2003. I was term limited. I'm a firm believer in term limits. I think as a result of term limits, I think politicians do good things for you and I, as opposed to whatever it takes to get reelected. But I find myself 18 months ago just outraged over the fact that this country is bankrupt. That 43 cents out of every dollar that we're currently spending is borrowed. I just think the biggest threat to our national security, I think the biggest threat to our way of life, is the fact that we are bankrupt and that we need to fix this right now. And how did we get here? Well, on national television, I was asked about a week ago, what about repealing President Obama's health care plan? Yes, we should repeal President Obama's health care plan. But how about if Republicans, in the spirit of bipartisanship, how about if Republicans offer a repeal of the prescription drug care benefit that they passed when they and ran up record deficits. There's a shared responsibility in this, and it goes back a long ways. But there's no kicking the can down the road anymore. We have to slash government spending. I advocate balancing the federal budget tomorrow. And that means cutting $1.5 trillion from the budget, because that's 43%.
Yeah.